Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I've entitled this Confessions of a YouTube Celebrity. I put an asterisk there because we're going to use celebrity in the loosest possible definition of the term. And celebrity starts to mean a lot of weird things these days. Okay, here we go. First things first. Jackie Chan classic, who am I? Let's start with that. First and foremost, I'm not a YouTube personality. I'm not a YouTube vlogger. I'm not one of the many sort of nouns that YouTube has sort of created in this sort of day and age. I am, I think, a filmmaker, first and foremost. And that's what I grew up wanting to do. When I was in high school, the first thing, I was making movies with my friends. When I was even younger than that, the first thing that my brother and I did was we would take these pool cues and we would smack each other with them, and then I would go into Photoshop version 3.0, export a film strip, and draw little lightsabers, like wiggly lightsabers on them. So trying to do that Star Wars action choreography at a very young age. We broke a lot of pool cues. My parents were not happy with that. Over the course of going to school down in Los Angeles, in 2010, I started a YouTube channel. At the time, it was because we were making all of these shorts, and we're like, well, where can we put these, man? Like, we got to put them online somewhere, right? And the university offered, I believe, 25 megabytes of web storage. So I was like, wow, there's got to be something better than this. I can't be compressing stuff. And YouTube had come along. That was the same summer that the Lonely Island's Lazy Sunday video came out, which actually I believe is a big introduction for YouTube for a lot of people. A lot of people found that site. So we were like, cool, we can put our videos up online somewhere. And over the course of the last 8 years or so, that channel, we've gotten just over 8 million subscribers, over 1 billion video views. We crowdfunded and created a series called Video Game High School through Kickstarter and Indiegogo and the help of BackerKit to our many, many thousands of backers around the world. Shipped a whole bunch of stuff to help crowdfund that, and we funded that to the tune of, over the course of 3 seasons, almost $2 million, which ended up being about half of the production budget, the other half of which we raised and created in other forms. All that to say is that I'm a creative. I'm not a tech sort of dude, even though I'm a nerdy guy. I'm not, speaking about platforms. What I'm trying to do in this is I'm trying to distill down what are kind of the lessons that I've learned over the course of 8 years, 8 years in internet time, by the way, which is like dog years, right? Like it might as well be 200 years of time on the internet in real world time. Trying to distill down kind of the lessons and things that I've held true over the years. Rather than sort of talk about our work and show sort of single images, turns out movies, something that I do, is a way of explaining what we do. So enjoy this very slickly put together, I didn't do this, but slickly put together reel of our work to give you an idea of kind of the world that I play in.
You want to get weird? Let's get weird.
Is he serious about that?
All right, everybody just calm down.
I'm a human being!
Well, you're crying like a little girl.
Screw you guys, I'm killing everyone!
Ready to kick some ass?
What the hell just happened?
Yo, what's up, guys?
That was actually kind of fun.
Yeah. Great job.
Yeah, great job. Yeah, fantastic. All right, first and foremost, big old caveat to kick off the talk. I'm talking about the specifics about my path from 2010 as a filmmaker and as a video creator which again, internet years being dog years, 8 years ago, is probably about the equivalent of like a filmmaker from the 50s talking about the good old days in Hollywood and telling you how to make it in Hollywood, in Tinseltown at the time, which is to say, probably the specifics are not going to be relevant anymore. In fact, probably the specifics of how we got to where we are probably not relevant about 2 years after we did it because of the pace of change that the internet goes through. So instead, I'm going to try and focus on the things that I have found, at least for me as a creator, to have stayed true, and the sort of principles that have helped us through the years kind of do what we do. What this is not a talk about how to make a bunch of money, like making cool stuff online. Bernie Burns, CEO, founder of Rooster Teeth, friend of mine, said the hardest thing about doing online content, and I agree with him on this, the hardest thing about doing online content is not making something like a flash in the pan, it's sustaining it and doing it long term. Sustaining it actually ends up being the most difficult, least glamorous trick that you can pull. So when I started again, as a filmmaker, more on the traditional side of things, right? So the goal from the beginning was very simple, which was find an audience by making stuff that we wanted to make and see. When I was in film school, the goal was to try and put things out there that entertained us. That's how it was always a collaborative thing. It was always a sort of group thing for me to work with friends and have fun making movies. I was always confused by a lot of people who were saying like, yeah, Hollywood's a real cutthroat place. People are assholes to each other. When my own experience, growing up with an DV camera and editing on iMovie with my friends in high school was, no, I don't understand how this can be cutthroat at all. This is just a bunch of friends having a good time. In 2010, YouTube was not a career path. Most people were regarding YouTube as the place where they saw that one SNL video, right, for the Lonely Island. It was not the behemoth, the sort of aspirational career choice for the Tide Pod eating generation that it is today. In 2010, there was a lot of user-generated content, which is to say mostly crap. And by the way, they asked me to give you like the raw, uncut take on all this. So that's what you're getting right here. This is the raw, uncut, like unfiltered opinions about this. And the goal at the beginning was like, okay, find an audience, right? So when we were looking around, we were like, we could do direct-to-DVD stuff. That was the sort of path at the time for a filmmaker. The filmmaker path was still the sort of rule from the 90s, which was what Quentin Tarantino and sort of Robert Rodriguez and some of these other directors did, which was make a short or make a film, a low-budget indie film, like a Blair Witch-style film, get it into Sundance, get your deal from the film festival. That's the way to do it. I remember looking around my graduating class of filmmakers and being like, when's the last time someone did that we know of? And everyone kind of looked at it and was like, I feel like that time was here and gone. So we had YouTube. And we looked at YouTube not as a way of making money, but it was just a way of being like, hey, this is a place where we can ply our trade. We can put something out there. We can hopefully build an audience from it. People had started to build audiences on YouTube, not with sort of filmmaking style type of content. It was more personality driven, but they had started doing that. And the thinking was we were looking at guys like Kevin Smith and these other filmmakers where it's like, look, he seems to be able to do stuff because he has an audience who likes his stuff already. So rather than try and make a piece of fiction and hope that there's an audience that will go and see it, let's go the other way around. Let's start with building an audience first. And then maybe then they'll be into what we do, and then we can make a movie, and then we'll have a bunch of people who will watch our stuff. That was the extent of the thinking at the time, And I think that, as some of the other speakers have noted, filmmaking especially is a commercial medium, right? You have very few sort of artistic sort of filmmakers. There are, like Stan Brakhage, maybe chief among them, but there are not a lot of people who make films and have it not really be commercial. If you want to do it as a career, for the most part, again, just in general, commercialism is a part of film. Capitalism is a part of film. And that's what was so interesting about it to me in the first place, is that it's that weird intersection of commercialism and art and how they sort of blend and have changed over the years was something that was sort of interesting to me. So, started the YouTube channel in 2010. This is the trick, by the way. This is it. And this is why I tried to write the most obnoxious sentence possible, which was, here's how we did it, guys. Use digital media platforms, engage your audience, conduct consistent high-margin business, keep overhead an absolute minimum. Piece of cake. Done. We can all go home now. We're done. Easy. So what does that actually mean? How does that translate in practice? What we were doing is we were doing YouTube videos once a week. We monetized them through at the time YouTube Partner Program, which allowed you to pair ads with videos. And then we would do occasional brand deals to promote games and movies on video games, movie properties on the channel as a way of sort of making money. Keeping costs low. Here's the trick for that. I lived with 3 other dudes in a warehouse loft space in LA before it was a hip and cool place to live, which meant that our typical meal was, no joke, bulk tortilla chips, Cholula, and white rice. No heating or HVAC, so I found out you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't keep your oven open and use it as a space heater. But at the time, it works, in case you guys are wondering. And also, not a lot of shirt wearing at the time. If you came by our loft, hoo boy, were we shirtless a lot. It's a pretty good way to cool down. And we were able to make a living off of this. And let's be frank, as some of the other speakers have alluded to, we were lucky. I want to be specific here on what I mean by luck, because I think a lot of people can say, like, oh, lucky, and then just sort of not really think about what that means. But let's sort of go into that a little bit. Yes, we did work our asses off. Over the course of the first 2 years of the channel, we were doing a video a week, which meant I was pulling an all-nighter every week for 2 years straight, which I think allows me to fall asleep within 15 seconds of closing my eyes. I won't do it as a demonstration on stage here today, but I do think that those two things are related and maybe not necessarily a good side effect of that. But here are the things that have helped us. Here's why we were lucky. We weren't lucky in the sense that you might think, but let's go over the list. We were lucky in that digital video cameras were sufficiently powerful and cheap enough to generate good enough high-quality HD video that we could use. We were lucky that the home computers were sufficiently powerful and cheap enough to allow us to manipulate said HD images without having to buy and purchase specialized equipment as you typically have had to in the past with filmmaking. We were lucky that YouTube and Google was well-funded enough that YouTube got bought by Google, and Google has enough servers online, and they're willing to let this lost lead go for as long as they could to allow us to upload videos online, and we didn't have to get bankrupted every time a video of ours went viral. I mentioned Bernie and Rooster Teeth. One of the stories that he shares is when they did a sort of Mac versus PC parody ad back in the day, they got a giant subscription hosting bill because it went places, and they're like, wow, success actually costs us a lot of money and is very bad for us as a business. We were also lucky that video encoding at that time is sufficiently efficient enough, and Flash was had enough of an install base that allowed enough people to freely view our videos online. I'm fortunate in the fact that my filmmaking tastes tend to skew towards action and visual effects and comedy. I was a little bit, sort of in film school, you get your French New Wave, like artistic test, which, by the way, love that shit. Love Tarkovsky, love that sort of stuff. Also love John Woo, also love the Michael Bay explosion stuff as well. But that was kind of where my interests lie. And that happens to dovetail at the time that a type of content that was underserved to the population at that time on YouTube, which was, to say, for teenage guys on YouTube who weren't really getting a lot of that. Interesting story from that time was we talked to a lot of creators and we asked them, we're like, hey, what's your audience look like? What's your demographics look like? And they said, well, yeah. YouTube is 90% female. And we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, look. And they pull up their analytics and they would say, most of my audience is female. And everybody was that case, 80-20, 85-15 skewed female. And I was like, that doesn't seem right because it's YouTube, so it probably is actually 50-50, like somewhere close to that, right? Because it's a very popular site. And when we started, we were getting very male-skewed sort of stuff, which was like 90% male, 10% female. And people would like call me, they'd be like, there's no way. Like, I want to see this. Prove it to me. Like, they couldn't believe it. And I think part of the reason why was at that time, that population was watching stuff on other sites. You had College Humor, you had Break.com, you had different sort of sites where those types of videos were sort of propagating. And YouTube, in the sense of people who were subscribing to channels at the time, that wasn't sort of where they were. So, and I think probably the most important way that we were lucky is that there was a platform in place for an audience to find and engage with us. And I think the takeaway for that was, yes, in any given situation, the circumstances are going to change, and there are advantages and disadvantages that you have. And luck doesn't find itself. It's not just, you shouldn't try and just stumble on it. It's on you, and I found this one of the most useful things, is to try and take stock of that situation, try and understand what is different about the time that you're in, and how can you apply that to your advantage. So again, as I said, things are always changing, right? Back then, what we didn't have Patreon, we didn't have Kickstarter, right? The idea at that time was there was a guy put out a hilarious blog post, Kevin Kelly put out the hilarious blog post about 1,000 true fans, and people at the time were like, what does that mean? Like, could you do microtransactions? How could that work? And then now with Patreon, with Kickstarter, with all these platforms that are available to creators, it's like, oh, this idea back in 2008 all of a sudden has a longevity and the possibility in life that you maybe couldn't see the path to back at the time. The audience relationship to money and how people deal with ads changed. Back in 2007, when the first people got on the YouTube Partner Program, you looked at their comments, and it was almost universally people being like, you sellouts, you guys, I can't believe you're doing this, I'm not watching you guys anymore, you guys owe us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People were mad that ads were showing up on their previously free content. A couple months ago, I was somewhat amused to find that there's a lot of people now complaining that they're like, what's going on, YouTube? How come you're not putting ads on my content? Like, it's not fair. You guys are not allowing these small creators to flourish by stopping the ads and changing the partner program. It's like, wow, we changed from people got mad that you got ads to now people are mad that there's not ads on their stuff. That audience relationship has changed over the course of 8 years. And that relationship to money has changed. When we first started, everyone was quiet about how much money they were making. Nobody would say how much they were making. Slowly, as time went on, the idea of like, yo, YouTube money, you started to see these like Minecraft and Call of Duty streamers or content creators buying cars in high school and putting pictures up. And everyone's like, wait, hold up. First of all, I was clearly born in the wrong time because that would have been me. I could have been doing that. Yeah. But also, people were okay with it. People it wasn't like you weren't getting called sellout anymore. In fact, in a weird way, selling out became cool. It was like, hey, I got a brand to help sponsor me. That attitude started to shift and started to change. So stuff is always changing, and if there's one thing that I know for sure, it's going to continue to do that. So let's talk about what has worked for us and what we found as essential as a creator. This one's very important to me. Treat your audience as equals. I've seen over and over and over again, there is a feeling that as a creator, and this is maybe a little controversial, but as a creator, you're getting done a favor by the audience. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're going out and you're watching this stuff. And you see that attitude a lot too, even in some of our videos now where people are like, I can't believe you guys are changing. You know, we started to shift from doing short form videos to trying to work on longer shows. Some of the comments we were receiving were like, I can't believe you guys are changing from that. Like, we made you famous. We were, like, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be famous. You wouldn't have that show. And there's, I think something, to me, it has never worked if you are subservient to your audience. You have to treat it like a relationship, and a relationship of equals. And to me, that's what a healthy relationship between an audience is, because I've seen over and over again, I've seen people just cave to audience demands and be like, okay, what do you guys want to see? Tell me what you want me to put out. And it changes that relationship to the point where then that person no longer is an artist or a creator. That person is a service for other people to watch. I remember reading a really interesting sort of mentality sort of look in one of the comments of our videos where we put out something a little bit different. We put out a horror film. And one of the comments that was very highly sort of regarded and uploaded in the community was, it's not that I don't like short films. It's not that I don't like these movies. It's just like if I'm listening to jazz on Spotify and like rock music comes on. And what that tells me is that for a lot of people, when they get on there, the struggle is going to be for the audience to not treat you as just a service, as not just a station for them to tune in to get stuff. Now, granted, a lot of these content creators work well for that. And a lot of, for example, take your epic rap battles of history, you know exactly what you're getting, and that's exactly what you want. It's this consumer-driven sort of way of approaching it. If that's what you want to do, cool. If that's what you really care about, cool. But what I found over and over again is that you have to have an artistic vision that you hold on to, and you have to have a relationship where you aren't subservient to your audience, because every single time it shifts in that power dynamic, you are completely tied up as a creator to do anything else. I've had friends who have done one thing for their audience. They want to change, and they're like, I can't do anything else. I can only do this. They are imprisoned by their own success when they go there. So I think it's very important as a creator to understand that your relationship with your audience is a two-way street, and don't treat it as something where you're just constantly I owe everybody so much for giving me this stuff. No, they're getting something out of it too. Like if our stuff wasn't at least mildly entertaining or funny, then you wouldn't have shared it. It's important to keep that in mind as a creator, and I see over and over again a mistake that doesn't seem like it has a long-term repercussion. It seems like at first, yeah, it's a good idea. Talk to your audience, engage with them, and like hear their thoughts. I'm not saying don't do that, but be careful in understanding that you go too far in that direction, you may find yourself down the line with an audience who expects something out of you that you yourself are not prepared to give. Quality is absolutely a subjective thing, and I've seen it over and over again because every single new hip cool thing on YouTube that shows up, everyone's like, what is this crap? In 2010, 2009 or so, Minecraft came out, and everybody was like, what is this crap? Like, I can't, and nobody understood it. And it ended up being this sort of this sort of harbinger of a time when video game streams and Twitch and sort of this pre-World War, hey, people are getting entertained by watching video games, but nobody was, at the time, everyone was, had no consideration for it. Everyone remember Kony 2012? Remember that? From a metric standpoint, that is one of the most viral videos of all time. And it's really interesting because it's like, why? It's not a well-made video, and there was a whole mess of, think pieces, and the dude went nuts and everything like around it. So it's like, well, what is it about this video that makes it one of the most viral videos of all time? It's because, as Jesse said in his talk, what gets shared and what goes viral, the only thing it takes to get something to get views is it must trigger an emotional response for you to share it. That's it. That's what the definition of going viral is, right? If something is sufficiently funny enough, or engage, or there's these Thai life insurance commercials that literally make you cry in 30 seconds. It's such a strong thing that you want to share it with your friends. That's what the response is that engenders. That doesn't mean it's a good video. That means it's just really good at doing that. Kony 2012 is a video that weaponized that desire because what it said was, by sharing it, you will get an emotional kick of being able to be like, I'm doing something to change the world. They built that into the message of the video, and that's why it got shared so much, because people were like, yeah, I'm making a difference. I'm going to spread the word. So they turned your feelings against you in a weird way. But again, I think everybody goes in there like, well, I don't get it. I have a YouTube channel. I make good stuff. I make quality stuff. I'm the best at doing this, but nobody's watching my stuff. Quality is not necessarily the way you get people to watch your stuff. It's a subjective thing. Do not chase waves, and my goodness, there are waves. Back when Minecraft came out, a number of my friends all switched. They're like, we got to start a gaming channel. We're going to start gaming. Well, and I asked them, like, well, what do you play? Do you game at all? Like, nah. But Minecraft's huge. That's where all the kids are. I got to start a Minecraft channel. I got to start a Call of Duty channel. Not a single one of these are still existing. The ones that do exist, by the way, were the ones at that time who said, hey, I really like playing Minecraft. I really like playing Call of Duty. I really like playing video games. I'm going to start a channel of me doing that. It came from an organic spot. By the way, anybody have kids slime? Anybody make slime? Elmer's glue? You guys familiar with this? Slime is 2020, late teen, man. It's old. It's Soapstagram now. It's carving up soap. It's drop shipping channels, man. Forget the cinnamon challenge, ice bucket challenge, Tide Pod challenge. No, it's gonna be always something else. You're always gonna be chasing it. That stuff always comes out. You can make a lot of money chasing waves, and I know a lot of people who do that. But I don't know a single one of them who are happy doing it. And when I say happy, I mean happy in the sense of creatively fulfilled by it. They hate doing it. There's a very popular channel, which I will not name, but this person, their talents are very much elsewhere. This grew, and it became huge, and it's their whole career, and they absolutely hate it. And it's distressing to see as a creator, because I think that in order to create honest work, you have to have your heart in it. And if you're just here to kind of, again, create a service, just pump stuff out there, I always am reminded by a quote that Hayao Miyazaki gave, when he talked about animation and his sort of struggle with creating children's animation. And he described creating animation as taking a bucket of water and throwing it into a tsunami. If you are happy with throwing water into the tsunami that is out there, then look, all power to you. Me personally, I don't understand it. I don't understand how you can find fulfillment in that way. When you create stuff, you gotta be tough on yourself. The Hollywood screening experience is everyone goes sees a movie, everyone hates the movie, and then out in the lobby, you're like, guys, this was such a good movie. I can't believe it's so good. And everyone's like, congratulating each other, patting each other on the back. Nobody tells you the truth. It's one of the problems I actually have with YouTube as a platform, which is you look at every single group of creative, sort of, let's take the impressionist painters or what have you, they would criticize each other's stuff. They would get in it with each other. They would have feuds about the content itself. You look at, the sort of the Hollywood directors of the 70s. They would watch it. They would ask each other for advice and change and feedback. But because YouTube was this weird thing where everybody's this island unto themselves, to their own audience, nobody really goes to each other and says like, hey, I think you're making this, and I think you could do better here, or you could change this up. There's no conversation on that front that I've seen. So to me, you have to have your best. You have to have your best friend is your internal bullshit detector. It needs to be well attuned to understand what you're doing. And really, again, to sum everything up here, for me, the one thing that is the most important as a creator is you have to make the right thing. And this is kind of a sticky thing, because it's not what you love to make. It's not what gets you views. It's not what makes you money. It's also not what fills a niche or need at the time. What I found is it has to be, in order for you to sustain, in order for you to survive a long-term strategy of this, it has to be kind of all those things. And I stumbled upon this idea, which is the Japanese idea of ikigai. And it, in a weird way, really sums up what works here. And you want to be right in the center of that. I used to describe YouTube and creating content as just the two left and right circles, or rather, sorry, the two sort of, the top and bottom circles originally. And then I realized, no, there's a little bit more to it. You need to find the thing in the middle that fulfills all of these things. And it needs to come from you organically, and that you need to be honest to that. The one thing that I found from online audiences is that they are very, very good at detecting when you're bullshitting. They're very good when they can tell that you've created a gaming channel, and really, at the end of the day, you're not really a gamer. Or you're creating a slime channel, like really, at the end of the day, you're doing that. Or you create a toy unboxing channel, and really, at the end of the day, you could give a shit about unboxing toys on camera. To me, this is the one thing that I would leave anybody who is thinking about a career path in the creative world with, as the key to having something sustain, which is find something that you're good at, that you love to do, but also something that you can get paid for, and also something that, you know, what the world needs. And you, by the way, you do a quick search down Patreon, and the people who I think have the most loyal and the best sort of Patreon sort of accounts and the followers hit that. You know, I think one of our favorite examples is my co-founder, Matt, is a guy who paints miniatures. And he found this guy who, that's all he does. He quit his job teaching to paint miniatures, and he does tutorials on YouTube, and he's able to make his living doing that. And that's, you can tell when you watch this video, that's actually what this guy wants to do, is what he cares about. Find that as best you can. And if it's, and don't delude yourself into thinking that you can start somewhere else and then get there. Start as close as you can in the middle. And to me, that is the one thing that you need to do if you want to have any sort of sustainability as a creator. Thank you very much, everybody.